Hello, Dr. Dykes. This is Jordan Smith. This is my final speech for you. I'm excited to give it. I'm going to do a brief overview of effective ways to deliver your speech on Chapter 13. So, the power of speech delivery. 65% of speech is nonverbal. The easiest way that I can demonstrate this is by telling a story. I have a really good friend of mine. His name is Willie. As you'll remember, I used to be a plumbing contractor, and Willie was the first guy that I went to work with, and I immediately gravitated towards him because he knew everything. He was the leader. He made it happen, and Willie was the guy that I wanted to make sure that I emulated my career after. I worked with him for 10 years, and over those 10 years I began to discover that Willie's greatness wasn't due to because he knew everything. He was great because he made you believe in him. He had the confidence, and he said, even if I don't know, I'm going to make it happen. So I think it was the very first class we talked about pretending that you belong until you do. And that's something that I can't. If there's one thing that I want anybody else to take away from this class or life in general, one thing that I live my own life by is that you have to just pretend like you belong there until you actually do, and pretty soon you're gonna find yourself you actually do belong. It's one of the most important lessons in life. Number two, the methods of delivery. There are several different methods that you can do to deliver a speech. You can deliver a speech from a manuscript, but the downside of reading to people is that it's rarely interesting. It can get a little dull and boring. I had a pastor for many years that would sit up at the pulpit or stand up at the pulpit and deliver his sermon by reading from a manuscript, and he would do his best to make it interesting, but it was something that every week looking forward to somebody reading you a book was it made it difficult to follow him. The next way, you can do memorized speaking. Often it turns out the same type as reading from a manuscript. It becomes so rehearsed and so practiced that it doesn't seem personal. It doesn't seem like there's a conversation going on, and you can drone your audience out. The next kind of speech is an impromptu speaking. This is where you don't have any time to prepare. Often they aren't very in-depth because of the nature of not having any time to prepare. So it's hard to really captivate the audience, but usually they give you a little bit of leniency. And then the last kind, the kind that you've always advocated for, and I would agree that this is the best kind of speech delivery, is the extemporaneous speaking. It's generally most effective, and it's my preferred style. I'm most comfortable having slides and a PowerPoint and using those slides as my prompt and going into a discussion and being able to teach. That's what I like. I think it's most engaging with my audience, and I think I'm most engaged when I have speakers that are speaking impromptu or extemporaneously. I think that's the method that I learn and understand best from speakers. So the next section, we have characteristics of an effective delivery. So the first thing is to maintain eye contact. Every once in a while I have to glance down at my notes, but I try to look up and maintain that engagement with the eyes. It helps build a connection and credibility with your audience, and it just makes your speech go better. Gestures. I don't know if I'm good or bad with gestures, but I don't think that my gestures are very distracting. I could probably do a better job of using them for emphasis, but I use them to keep the speech rolling, and it's just something naturally that speakers often do. Movement. So I'm traveling this week, so I'm doing my speech in a hotel room. And so I'm sitting at the desk in a chair, so I'm not going to be moving around a lot. But in my in-person speeches, I did a little bit of walking around, but I don't think that it was anything that was more distracting to the speech. I think it can, can be okay as long as you're not overdoing it. It can also help you get out away from the podium. There were a couple quotes in the book, and I kind of melded them together. And to summarize, good fences make lousy speeches. So if you have a barrier up in front of your audience, keeping you from them, it makes for kind of a lousy speech. Posture is important too. So I have a I have a pillow behind my back. I'm trying to sit up and have good posture on the video to help convey my interest and convey my confidence. I want to act like I want to be here. Facial expressions. So if I come in and I look sad and I'm down and I have a frown on my face, it's not going to be very interesting. But if I'm sitting up and I have a smile on my face, it helps give that pleasant expression, and it helps with your credibility. It helps you make you feel like, makes your audience feel like, hey, this guy likes what he's talking about and I should listen to him. It makes a big difference. Then you have vocal delivery, speaking clearly at a good volume. So I'm not too loud and I'm not too soft and mumbling either, but I try to talk in a steady, consistent tone, and vary when there's points of emphasis as needed. I also want to articulate well, avoiding short-term slang words. You also want to speak in a easy to understand and listen to dialect. I've lived in several different places in the country. You can have a southern drawl. There are lots of people that I work with down here that have a southern drawl, and it can be funny and it can take away a little bit from the speaker. So you just gotta have to watch that and try to make sure it doesn't take away from your delivery and your speech. You also want to use vocal variety, so you can vary the pitch for emphasis. You can vary the rate of speech. Also, don't forget, pauses can be very effective. Personal appearance. So again, I'm traveling this week. I'm sitting here in my hotel room. I do have pants on, just in case you were wondering. I hope that's you can't really see on video, but I made an effort to put a polo shirt on, make sure my hair's combed, and there's nothing in my teeth, and it helps make sure that the audience views me as credible. And then the last thing is you have to make sure that you rehearse. So I've gone through my notes, read my notes out loud, rehearsed several times to make sure that, hey, I'm ready and prepared and comfortable. I know what I'm talking about. I have that confidence. I'm gonna act like I've done this a million times and just push right through it. That's gonna help with your credibility and make you sound like a polished speaker. So just to recap, some of the most effective things: delivery and confidence are the keys. I can't say enough in life too, but directly related to this speech class, delivery and confidence, absolute key to success. Choose wisely your method of delivery. You want to make sure you're engaging the audience and soliciting their participation and their attention. You want to know the characteristics of effective delivery. You want to monitor your volume, your articulation, your dialect, and your pitch. And then finally, you want to rehearse. That's one of the biggest things you can do to make yourself comfortable with the topic that you're presenting and the speech and the outline that you're. That way, you know you're prepared and ready to go after it and make a good presentation. So that is my speech. Dr. Dykes, it was a pleasure. Thank you very much. I hope to have another class from you down the road, and I had a lot of fun. Thank you very much.